All right, good afternoon, everyone. I will now call to order the May 26, 2026 regular meeting of the City of South Pasadena Public Safety Commission. It is 4:36 p.m. on Tuesday, May 26th. David, please call the roll.
Chair Ogwin,
Present.
Vice Chair Lu,
Present.
Commissioner Cervantes,
Present.
Commissioner Senko.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, David. Are there any public comments this evening?
No public comments.
No public comments?
No.
Okay, seeing none, we will move on to presentation, which is item number 2 on this evening's agenda. Police Chief Derek Elmore will present the South Pasadena Police Department proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 through 2027. Chief?
Good afternoon, everyone. Commissioners, appreciate you guys being here today to present the budget for 26-27. The police department shows a total budget of 14.8 million. It is a total budget increase of 12%. Most of that increase is due to insurance and other fees that have usually been assessed to the general fund that are now coming back to each individual department. And because of the size of the police department and the amount of vehicles and the facilities that we take up, we have a bigger chunk of that than other departments going forward. Our FTEs stayed steady at 54 for the year. And as you can, and stayed steady at 54 for the year. So that's the general overview of what the budget looks like, and if I can get this to work, we'll move on. There we go. I found it. So budget enhancements for the year. As we look and continue to look for the best way to support our public safety, we're looking at, hold on a minute. Let me go back. There we go. Now I'm on the right slide. All right. So slide 2, we're talking about delivering a strong public safety results going forward while still building our programs. As we look back at our accomplishments over the last year, we were able to, within our detective bureau, we were able to have several major cases. We had a 4-month-old child who was killed, and through a good job with our detectives, it was a shaken baby syndrome, and the 4-month-old, we were able to determine that it was a parent that actually committed that crime, and we were able to get a successful prosecution. Our detectives also had a DUI take place with speeds in excess of 100 miles an hour. The result of that resulted in a death. Through the investigation, we were able to determine that not only was speed involved, but there had been multiple DUIs and prior collisions with that individual, and we were able to successfully charge a homicide on that case as well, which is not something that's normally done in those cases. We are also able to successfully help break up both a counterfeit ring and a grand theft burglary ring as well, using our detective bureau. Operational efficiencies, we've had about a little over 2,500 calls for service for the year to date. We continue, as you can see outside in the courtyard there, to hire new employees so that hopefully we can help reduce some of our overtime and other issues that we've had. They are interviewing approximately 16 individuals today for a couple of spots that we have left open. We were at 35. We have 2 more people in the process, and we have 2 more openings that we're hoping to fill hopefully within the next month or so that we could then become at full staff. We also continue to work on our enhancement to our traffic and our traffic problems throughout South Pasadena. And we have a task force that has helped help with all this. We've cited over, we had a DUI task force that we were able to, I'm sorry, not a DUI task force, but the traffic task force was able to cite over 500 citations throughout the year through their saturation program and educate even more people throughout that program. Operationally, we secured over $1 million in grant funding to upgrade our our outdated radio system in our 911 dispatch center. We're hoping to receive those funds shortly and get started on the enhancements and upgrades to those. We strengthen our community engagement through various programs, Coffee with the Cop, our Citizens Police Academy, our Take Back program, our drug buyback program, fraud presentations, and also our business district foot beats that we've created. One of the biggest accomplishments that we have not listed on there this year is that we were able to hire a police chief. So that part went very well, and I'm happy about that and very happy to be here. Thank you, all of you guys who did participate. I know some of you participated on the board and stuff, so I am very grateful and happy to be here. All right, some of our current work plans. As we go through this, we want to continue to work on traffic safety. We know that that's a big issue and concern, so we're going to continue to explore some of the traditional mitigation efforts and safety strategies and concerns with our improving mobility and enhancing the overall quality of life throughout the community. We're actively collaborating with the school district under the Officer and Traffic Safety Grant to directly address traffic concerns and improve safety and things in and around the schools for both the students and the community as a whole as well. Part of our information technology infrastructure we talked about earlier, improving the 911 and the dispatcher. We're also going to be coming to council and to this board with recommendations on a new automatic license plate reader, whether we want to go with a hybrid, we want to go with a different vendor than what we've had now, or if we want to do some kind of combination of the in-between. So hopefully within the next month or so, we will be done with that impact study and be able to bring that to you guys so that you can see where we're going with that information. Our community outreach continues to work as we have selected, or we're in the process of selecting a detective to work on our mental health, with our mental health crisis provider that we get from the county. We're looking to pair someone with her full-time to help reach with our individuals who have mental health issues and also are experiencing homelessness. We are also in the process this week of interviewing for a crime analyst. Hopefully with that, we'll be better prepared to be data-driven in our efforts to continue to fight crime. We'll be able to get out a weekly crime report again and also work on enhancing our neighborhood watches with that crime analyst in place. As we continue to look at our budget enhancements for the coming year, we're looking at a crossing guard contract, which was already contractually put in place by City Council in the past. We're just making sure that we are providing the extra that this year now calls for as we go forward. We'll continue to work with the crossing guards and the schools as the school year comes back into play again in the fall, and make sure that we have extra patrols and whatnot out there with that. We have a UASI grant that we're still working on spending the money. Part of that will be for personal protective equipment, TEF books or laptops for our officers, and then a one-time expenditure of about $126,000 for those purchases. Our efficiencies as we go forward and look at revenues, our parking fines, citations, and other permits, those prices have been well below market or what is commonly done. We're looking at raising those and bringing those up to all the surrounding areas as well. So some of those fees will be going up to make sure that we are keeping up with how much it costs to basically implement and put those things into place. We amended our fee schedule to expect the increase of revenues from those parking and also filming to help offset some of the balances that we had to provide for in the budget for this year. Operational changes we've talked about already, where we are developing that crime analyst and the detective to work with the mental health expert. So that's basically what it looks like going forward in a general overview. I'll be happy to take any specific questions that you guys may have.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Appreciate the presentation. Any questions, colleagues? Commissioner?
Yes, I wanted to ask you if were you going to have this coffee with a cop, and I believe that that is one of the best ways for the citizens of South Pasadena to get acquainted with the police, because otherwise they only see them as somebody who's going to give them a ticket or maybe come and save their lives. Something horrible is going on. But preferably, I think what we need to enhance the visibility, our police. I don't know if you have, other than coffee with the cop, which is, I've seen it in the past, and it was very successful. A lot of people came and talked and all that, and actually the comment that they got out of it was, oh boy, they were nice, they were very friendly. So, that's no surprise. We know that, but they don't. So that is a very important way to relate to the community, and I think we should give it some serious consideration. As another point that I'm concerned about is, how soon do you think we're going to get the program going again for the what you call the neighborhood watch? Who is going to be in charge of that program? Because I think the citizens are your eyes and ears all over the city, as opposed to being somebody in the station and not knowing exactly what's going on. So I think we should, even though after a while it gets kind of, people say, I seen that, I heard that, and they just lose interest. But in this day and time, it's a vital form of policing and keeping the city safe.
Yes, so taking your second question first, that's part of the crime analyst that we're in the process of hiring. The interviews start this week for that position. Hopefully, we will have that person in place, and with the data and other things that they'll be using, we'll put out that weekly report and then start bringing the, neighborhood watches back together again and having that person in charge of that on the regular basis. So hopefully we can keep the cadence up and keep that going. So that is the plan going forward. The coffee with the cop, we haven't set any dates or time yet. I'm still doing some meet and greet, so to speak, with the mayor and other council members on their time and schedule. But as soon as I have the opportunity, I'm going to break out and we're going to do those coffee with the cops, probably more than one between now and the end of the year, probably 2 or 3 before the end of the year. And I don't know the places or times yet. I haven't identified that yet, but I will work on that and get that information back to you guys as soon as possible.
Any other questions, colleagues? No, Chief, I do have a question for you, or two, I guess.
Yes.
On the slide, if we could go back one, for the dedicated mental health officer under the community outreach bullet, would that be different from, I believe we have a liaison right now who deals with people who are experiencing homelessness or the unhoused population? Is that going to be a separate position?
That's going to be a dedicated detective that we are trying to identify within the next month or so to ride specifically with that person. So it's different than the liaison officer in the sense that it's going to be a dedicated officer and they won't have other collateral duties. This will be the main duties. And if they have other collateral duties, those will be collateral. This will be their main focus.
So the liaison position will be redundant at this point then?
It will go away. Yes.
Okay. Also on the first slide, if we could go back.
Yep.
Yes. So total budget 14.8 million. Just a question, not so much on the number, but I know some of the services or some of the expenses are covered by grants. Does this 14.8 bake in those grants, or is that money that we're then is reimbursed to us later?
Yeah, so the money is part of the grants. It's kind of weird. Some of the grants are in that and some of them aren't. So it depends.
It's a lawyer's favorite word. It depends.
Yeah, it depends on which ones we're talking about. So there are some of them that are included in that budget going forward. I know the over $1 million that we're supposed to receive for the upgrades to the radio system is included in that budget. So that is part of that. But other things aren't included in that, and hopefully we'll be able to get other equipment and other things that we need through that granting process.
Okay, thank you. And then on the crossing guard piece, I know that's a city council item where they approve the contract, but just curious, I know you're new into the seat, but whether once that contract is up, if there's been any thought given to running the return on investment of those possibly being city employees as opposed to contractors?
Yeah, that hasn't come up as of right now. We haven't discussed which way that's going to go in the future. I know that contract was negotiated a while back, and that this next step requires an upbeat. I can't remember whether there's more bodies or if there's just higher pay for those crossing guards. Do you remember?
For that step increase, it is going to be, we put it as a precautionary for an additional crossing guard because there's been a lot of talk in city council, and by us preparing the budget, we don't want to go back and ask for additional revenue, so we wanted to be safe and request the additional funds of, I believe, was $5,000 for an additional crossing guard.
Lieutenant, do you know if there's any plans to evaluate in the future the possibility of not having a contract with a third party, but using city employees?
You know, it's something that we can look into. However, in the past, we have dealt with it, and it almost took a full-time person just to manage that position with, I believe there's 14 crossing guards, and when they call in sick, you have to have extra ones. So there's no liability on our city for retirement if someone gets hurt or what have you. So it's easier just to contract out, but it's something that we can definitely look at in the future.
Yeah, just curious what the numbers would look like. I know we're tied into the contract right now, so I'm not suggesting any changes or anything. Just more curious of what the numbers would come out to. But any other questions? No. Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Chief.
And we can definitely look at that for you.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep, you bet.
Okay, moving on to item number 3. Fire Chief Greg Lloyd will be presenting the South Pasadena Fire Department proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 through 2027. Chief.
Thank you very much, Council or Commission. I will bring this up here. And so very similar to what you see format for you in there, our 26-27 budget is $9.2 million. It represents a 17% budget increase. We have a total of 23 FTEs. That's a net change of 0, same that we've had previously, so no increase in personnel. I will note that this $9.2 million budget, it is a 17% increase, but there was also 7% of operational cuts that we were asked to do by all departments were asked by the city that we went ahead and executed as a way for fiscal responsibility. The predominant amount of those increase in those costs involve PERS, the unfunded actuarial liability, salary increases that are already part of MOUs, a vehicle replacement plan, as well as interdepartmental funds that are interdepartmental service fees. And the interdepartmental service fees are done just as a way of accounting what each department costs in order to run. So in other words, part of our interdepartmental service fees are facilities. So when the Public Works or Facilities comes over and does work on that fire station, it would reflect in their budget. So those ISFs or interdepartmental service fees help fund those other departments. And it's a way that we can better track and how the accounting of the funds throughout the city's budget. Our 7% cost came from some reductions in special department fees, as well as a termination of a contract services with TransTech, who is a third-party company that does some of our plan reviews. So we'll be taking that plan review in-house and be handling that to save about $20,000 out of the contract services fees as well. As we move on, so for our some of the accomplishments in the FY 25-26, we did promote one division chief, one fire captain, and one fire engineer. We hired 4 firefighter paramedics and established a firefighter trainee position. I am pleased to tell you that as of a week ago Monday, we are 100% staffed and we have 0 vacancies. Yeah, little golf clap for that would probably be where they. Yeah, so great work by our HR department, by our personnel, and so we're happy to say that, and we've had the one vacancy we had is from a long-term injury has returned, and so we are back to full staffing, and we are excited to be moving forward with that. Emergency preparedness, we did staff training drills and interagency coordination. We had quarterly drills with staff and bringing a lot of our new staff up to speed with emergency operations, as well as it relates to the Emergency Operations Center, disaster management, and the paperwork that is involved with that. We did our quarterly CERT classes, and last October we had our first annual Emergency Preparedness Fair and Public Safety Fair that we will continue again in October this year in our partners with the Police Department. We did receive over $200,000 in grant funding for equipment and emergency preparedness. Most of that involved Measure B grant that funded 2 power cots, so 2 powered gurneys that help reduce lifting injuries and the repetitive lifting that comes with putting the gurney in and out of the ambulance, as well as $25,000 for an alert and warning public education campaign. And so we'll be coming out with that here coming in the next fiscal year. Facility improvements, we replaced an inoperative exhaust extraction system to reduce contaminants within the fire station. And then we replaced aging and maintenance-intensive apparatus doors with up-to-date technologies and refreshed the firefighter's bathroom. Moving forward to next year, we're going to continue with staff training drills and coordination, both locally and regionally. As we talked about, a public education alert and warning system that will be expanding outreach to give people access to some new apps that are out there to provide up-to-date information on the emergencies that are taking place within the community as well as the county at large. We have requested and asked for, as you remember in the last time, we brought forward the community risk assessment, standards of coverage, and strategic plan. That has made it into our budget as a one-time enhancement. So we'll be engaging with that to help guide the future service delivery within the department and the city, as well as implementing a workforce wellness program through Santa Ana College to support employee health, resilience, and injury reduction combined with ongoing education. So we talked about that in the budget enhancements, some efficiencies and revenues. Said we received that $25,000 to fund an alert and warning campaign, and that $121,000 to purchase the power cots, as well as $65,000 for a new Zoll monitor. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions, colleagues? Dr. Senko?
Yeah, Chief, my understanding is you guys were awarded one of the exclusive Measure B grants to help cover some of the equipment.
Yes.
The department, I just want to congratulate you on that. I know this was a particularly tight year and complicated process, and I think it speaks a lot that your team was leaning into this and was able to achieve that. I do see missing on here some items that I want to go on record as saying that in the future we should consider applying for, and that's additional training for either command staff or captains in the area of community risk reduction. And I think this is a promising area that forward-thinking fire departments that provide 911 emergency medical services have themselves leaned into. It's considering how community consultation combined with risk reduction approaches like making things like naloxone available have definitely borne fruit. And so I would ask that you and your team consider for not this, but the upcoming budget cycle, folding that into your thoughts. And I know we have some excellent programs that are underway now. I see Dr. Stone here in our work with the Cardiac Arrest Task Force and Heart Safe Communities project is a good example of that. And I could see that leading into more work in the area of community risk reduction.
Absolutely.
I guess I have one other question, and this is actually, I think, for both of our chiefs. What can we do to better advocate for you with private foundations or even public funds that are available outside of our jurisdiction to get more money, whether it's endorsement of your projects, writing letters, or any other kind of advocacy that we can do from our committee? You guys know better than we do what other funds are available. Everything under the sun is costing more these days, not the least of which is our personnel and everything that goes into funding their items. But if either today or in the coming meetings you have ideas about how we can support you in your applications for outside grants, I think all of us would really love to know that and hear that and figure out ways that we can be supported.
Yeah, I think for us, a lot of that would come in the form of support letters when we are applying for those grants. If we can then know that, reach out to you guys and find out who would be the appropriate person to sign off on those support letters, maybe that would be one way. And then if you guys hear about other grants, because even though we're in the field and looking for them all the time, you may be able to hear about stuff that we didn't hear about. Just bring it to our attention so that we can know that we're able to apply for those.
Yeah, because I know DOJ historically has had funds available for things like collaborations with mental health, and Assistant for Firefighters grants are constantly changing the items that they prioritize.
Right.
And whatever we can do to support your efforts, I think we all want to be there for you.
Great. Yeah, and to echo Chief Elmore is saying, so those letters of support are always important. I can tell you that a lot of times the grant turnarounds are very quick. So you mentioned AFG. AFG opened on May 19th. It closes on June 22nd. So they give you a 30-day window to make the full application, which can be challenging for us, not undoable. But we need to go to council for approval when we're going to apply. So we will be up on the June 8th or the first meeting in June, be requesting for AFG to purchase a Type 3, basically a brush truck that will help with the narrow streets within the Monterey Hills, but also serve as a regional asset for wildland firefighting to help support our community partners. And so because it's a 90-10 grant, so there is some cost to the city, as most of the grants are, there is some cost sharing involved with that. It would be about a $75,000 initial partnership with that. And then we always have to think with any vehicle and ongoing cost to the city for maintenance, fuel and any of those things as well. So you're absolutely right. I think the other thing would be anytime we have any smaller foundations, we can see some of the larger grants, but if there's smaller foundations or philanthropic, organizations that want to do something on a small end, those are things that maybe you may be aware of that we're not, that we would be more than happy to provide, either a shovel-ready project or something smaller that we can do to help the organization, in general.
For emergency medical services training and support, either training or hardware, is there anything you can think of that would be beneficial that we might lean on our assets to try and understand how we could produce funding or help fundraise for those items?
I think the one that comes to mind that we've talked about would be really focusing on either the fire department to become a training site with the American Heart Association, and that we can provide training for CPR not only for all of our employees but for the community as well, and looking at some kind of a hybrid system that basically leverages online for some of those things, and then also having the skills verification here at the city. I know all of police officers all have CPR training, and so they need to be recerted every couple of years. Our rec leaders all CPR training. Our goal would be to have 100% of city staff all trained in CPR. So there's a cost to that, a training cost, but then those certifications pays. But the other part would be a training site for the community, so that the community could come and get their skills verification. And that goal would be for those that want that certification beyond just sidewalk CPR, and we'll talk a little bit about sidewalk CPR in our next presentation, that they actually want or need the certification, that we'd be able to provide that to them throughout the city as well. So I could see that just off the top of my head as would be a great advantage.
Yeah, sorry, just real quick. Just one thing, just so I don't lose my train of thought, and then I'll get to Commissioner. But unfortunately, we only meet every other month now, which is a detriment to some of these things with quick timelines, and we still haven't had a city manager come explain to us that decision, which is unfortunate. But I would implore my colleagues up here too to peruse the city council agendas. Not everything dealing with the two departments comes to our commission because of timelines or for other jurisdictional reasons. So I know there have been times where we all receive, I think, the city council agendas. David and Kevin and Mark in the city clerk's office does a good job. So if you scroll through it and happen to see something related to some kind of funding or something related to the departments, if it looks appealing to you, we are citizens of the city. We can go speak in favor of such items in our personal capacity at the city council meetings. So that's I think another avenue potentially for us to support. So sorry to cut you off, Commissioner, but go ahead.
No, it's all right. I wanted to mention that there are existing groups here in the city, such as like the Kiwanis Rotary Club, and they're very well organized, and they are pretty much want to make a significant contribution to the city, because nothing brings a city together more than a common plan to make it better for everybody. So if you would let us know ahead of time what it is that can be done to help you afford any of these projects that you have, to bring it to fruition and to make it possible, I think that would be very good for both of us.
Excellent. No problem.
Chief, same question I asked your counterpart. The grants, are they baked in or it depends?
They're the ones that are baked in are the ones that we're spending. So they get moved into that as the overall budget. So that would be the $121,000 that's shown up there on the Measure B fund for the gurney has already been expended out of the 25-26 budget. As well as $66,000 for the monitor. The $25,000 out of the California Fire Foundation grant is baked into our budget for the 26-27 because we're going to be spending that this year.
Thanks, Chief. Any other questions?
Any outside contractors part of the fire budget?
Yeah, we do have a contract. So we have a couple of contracts. We have one of our contracts with Verdugo. So for dispatch, we have a contract with Interwest that we've recently started, and that's going to do our complex plan review. So we have four major projects coming into the city, right? 625 Fair Oaks, as 815 Fremont, 845 Fremont, another one on El Centro, and another couple on Mission. So those are mid-rise developments that have a lot of unique or complex plan reviews that are beyond the scope of our staff. And so rather than hiring staff, we're just going to contract for those 3 or 4 projects, because once they're done, then there really isn't going to be a lot of use, other than, we could certainly use additional staff, but looking at the funds and what we have right now within budget, using a contract staff was the best for that. We also have contract staff for EMS education, and we use that through EMS QI partners. They provide quarterly continuing education for us, as well as all of our QA, QI audit, and they take care of that piece for us to eliminate staff on that. And so we have a great relationship with them. They also provide ride-alongs. They come out, they do work with our personnel, provide continuing education, making sure that we're always rendering the best level of care possible for that. And I think at the top, we have a contract with data analytics, who does the EPCR. So we have a fair number of contracts through that within our contract services. It's about $250,000 out of our budget that we're using for contracts, a majority of that being Verdugo. Verdugo runs us a little over $200,000 a year.
Chief, there's no cost associated with responding, other agencies through Verdugo responding into our city, and we don't get reimbursed for responding to other cities, right? That's just the deal.
No, yeah, the mutual aid does not cost us anything. We reciprocate that if we go outside of the city, and then other agencies come into the city. And I can tell you, because we'll be getting into it in March, I think we had 56 responses outside of the city and 66 responses into the city. So it's a very, very close as far as in and out. The only thing we would lose in that is if we have a transport ambulance that's coming into the city, they would be billing, and we would lose any revenues that we would get if we were transporting. But then we also get that back by responding outside of the city.
Commissioner Liu?
Yes, I remember we talked about the upgrade of the fire engine. There are many talks about increasing the density and the height of the building near the train station area. How about the status? Are we planning to upgrade for fire engine?
So this is one of the reasons why we're coming forward with the community risk analysis and standards of coverage. That's run by a consultant that will look at all of those things. It also includes community involvement. So there will be a portion of community outreach to that, to talk about what is the risk, what is the felt risk, what are the felt needs within the community. Bringing in that the mid-level construction, that mid-rise development does create a need for an aerial device, for an aerial apparatus, a fire truck. Does that mean that we're going to buy it, staff it, and operate it? Maybe yes, maybe no. We have 2 trucks that are run by our adjacent cities that would be responding in on a fire. So Pasadena has a truck, Alhambra has a truck, and that on a fire that they would be responding to that if they're available. And so what that study will do is talk about, what's their availability, what does that look like, and then recommendations moving into the future. Does that mean, as we're increasing in call volume, that we're adding capacity to be able to continue to give the same level of service? And that's our goal, is that as changes come within the community, as the risk profile changes, we can still render the same level of service that we always do and that our community expects from us.
Thank you. We do have a plan. Yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions? No. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
All right. Moving on to action and discussion items on today's agenda. Item number 4 on the agenda is the consideration of an ordinance amending section 19.58 of the South Pasadena Municipal Code, proposing the elimination of the 30-minute grace period and adjustment of overnight parking restriction hours. Lieutenant, are you taking this one?
I am. Good afternoon, Chair Hugin and Commissioners, Student Commissioner, welcome. Today, I'm presenting staff recommendation to amend section 19.58 of the South Pasadena Municipal Code to strengthen our overnight parking regulations. One of the issues is over the past several months, the police department has received notable increase in complaints with residents regarding parking around businesses, late night businesses, restaurants, bars, and entertainment venues that are just that recently opened. Under the current code, parking is allowed for 30 minutes between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. without an all-night parking permit. Unfortunately, the 30-minute grace period has proven difficult to enforce. So our officers are out there enforcing this. However, they have to mark the vehicles, come back, and then they're issued citations or warnings. And that limits how many citations or warnings that were given people without overnight parking permits. The goal is to have the patrons utilize off-street parking, whether it be city-owned structures or the parking structures of the restaurants or the bars that they're attending. Staff recommends two key amendments. To eliminate the 30-minute grace period entirely, any parking on public streets during restricted hours will require a valid parking permit. The second will be advance the restriction start time to either 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Currently, it is from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And this is to better align with the actual late night business activities. The existing permit system for residents and their guests will remain unchanged, and annual holiday exemptions will continue. These changes will restore residential parking availability, improve neighborhood quality of life, support more consistent street sweeping, and help detect abandoned vehicles and actually help assist with homelessness on our streets. South Pasadena will be aligned with our neighboring cities, Pasadena, Alhambra, and San Marino, which are already strictly enforce these overnight parking rules without any grace periods. There'll be a fiscal impact, a one-time cost of approximately $10,000 from the general fund to replace regulatory signs at the 26 major entrances of the city. We want people to know that the restrictions are here. So when you enter the city, there are signs stating that parking is restricted from 2 a.m., currently restricted from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., and a permit is required. Staff will conduct public outreach, update our website materials, and give warnings for the first couple of weeks. Staff recommends that the Public Safety Commission approve the ordinance presented. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, appreciate that, Lieutenant. Are there any questions for the Lieutenant? I have some items for discussion or debate here on the dais, but any questions for him before we move to debate?
Sure, I do. Just a quick question, Lieutenant.
Go ahead.
Just so I'm clear, one of the options was to eliminate the grace period and to keep or change the hours of that. Was it
to actually change the operation hours? So if the bars or late night restaurants are open till 2 a.m., the patrons are going to park on the street, and so the goal is to have the patrons park on off-street parking. So if the restaurants close at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're still going to be parking on the street. And with the new buildings and everything that else is coming up, parking is going to be pretty limited. So what we're trying to do is get ahead of the game before it actually starts happening.
okay? Okay, did I hear that you were thinking about, or at least was thinking about changing the hours from 2 going to 1?
That is correct, and that will align with the
With most of our occupancies here in the city, right? I don't think we have too many clubs or nightclubs that go to 2.
correct, correct.
But not yet,
Mhm.
not yet. But okay, I see. So it's more of changing the time to start at 1 a.m. to 6,
Compared to 2 to
from
6.
2 to 6, and
Mhm.
eliminate the grace period, just a citation
Correct,
as is. Okay,
correct.
got it. Okay, I'm clear now. Thank you.
Any other questions for the lieutenant? No. I have a question, and then I want to have some debate up here, but there's a line in the staff report, SPPD issues daily, monthly, and annual overnight permits primarily to residents and guests. I know there's I don't know what it's called, vending machine in the lobby of the police department, and I know some of these permits are available online, but I don't believe all of them are. Can you shed some light on which are available online and which you need to come in for, if there's any other mechanisms to obtain any of these?
Absolutely. So we definitely want to make it easy for our residents. So we have a kiosk up in the front that allows up to three business days, and we're trying to kind of prolong that just a little bit longer. So guests coming for a week, we can sell them permits so they can park on the street. For the monthly permits, you have to come into the station, and for yearly permits, you have to come into the station to obtain the yearly permits.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think for the sake of going along with the surrounding cities, adjacent cities, we really should all have the same times. It shouldn't be that this one does this and the other one does that. I think it needs to be consistent. And even though you're going to take a hit at first with changing signs and whatever and whatnot, I think in the long run it's going to pay because people who will come into this area will know what to expect, whether they're here, Alhambra, or San Marino.
Absolutely, and it's consistency around. So again, it takes out the guesswork for people coming or parking in the city.
Okay, let's move on then to debate. Mark, do you need something, or you good? No? Okay, yeah, I just have some thoughts on this, and not a question, Lieutenant, so you can sit down if you if you'd like, but I think there's some conflict in the staff report as opposed to the actual language of the statute or the municipal code proposed amendment. For example, the staff report says it would encourage patrons to utilize designated off-street public and private parking facilities. And Lieutenant, you echoed that. But the term public conflicts with the proposed amendment to section 19.58, which says, or in any city-owned parking lot. So the way I read it, it would really just be private parking. I'm not aware of any other city-owned lots other than the one that's articulated in the first line of the proposed ordinance. But Lieutenant, you have something on that?
Correct, and good catch, and that's something that we definitely will change, and we do recommend that they use off-street parking, utilize our city lots, and for the patrons of the restaurants.
Yeah, and that's something else. Thank you for that, Lieutenant. Appreciate that clarification, and if you can clear that up, because I think that was a bit of a conflict there. And I understand that the impetus of this is businesses, restaurants, bars, other late night venues. I know we have a great new music venue that's, I believe, open late. But I don't want to lose sight of the potential impact on private events too, not just patronizing businesses, but I happen to live in an area of the city where there are no public or private lots. So if I wanted to have like a dinner gathering or something, and all of the guests now need to get permits, but if it's for a longer period of time, my understanding is municipal code section 19.60 and 19.61 say there's a maximum of one permit that you can get for either monthly or annual. So I'm curious if that's going to be addressed as well. Also, Lieutenant, and you echoed this too, but in the staff report, it says existing permit structure and traditional holiday exemptions, parentheses, Thanksgiving, winter break, will remain unaffected by this modification unless otherwise directed. But that I think conflicts with the language in the proposed municipal code amendment that says, quote, of any day. So I don't see a carve out for holidays. So I'm not sure how we would give that traditional leeway that we've always given. So those are just some of my concerns for my colleagues up here. But anybody want to touch on any of that or?
If I can comment on if someone's having an event at their house, it's easy to pick up the phone and contact our watch commander and get an exemption for that area. It'd be a one-time, two-time exemption for that general area. You can say, hey, you know what, I live in the 100 block of Pasadena Avenue, and I would like an exemption because I'm having some guests staying till whatever hour, and we're more than happy to accommodate our residents.
Thank you. Just one other thing. You give a lawyer a statute. He's going to have some comments on it. In the whereas the city of South Pasadena owns a parking lot, and that's the one we talked about, the one parking lot. There's an extra space in Mound Avenue. Just if you're cleaning something up there. But any other thoughts? I know the lieutenant has respectfully requested that we approve this proposed amendment, but any other thoughts or debate?
Do we need to decide on 1 to 6 or midnight to 6?
I think the recommendation, as I understand it, and you can jump in, Lieutenant, but the recommendation, as I understand it, is to approve the proposed amendment to the ordinance, which includes both eliminating the 30-minute grace period and moving the start time to 1 a.m. Is that correct?
That is correct. And again, let me reemphasize, with in certain cities, you're going to see the oversized vehicles, you're going to see campers camping, and once it kind of starts, it gets out of control. And I'm talking about the unhoused people camping in that area. What this helps us do is helps us contact them and be able to educate them and let them know you can't park here for more than a certain amount of time unless you have a permit.
Any other questions or debate? Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the ordinance as presented?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Got a second?
Use the mic.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, hearing no more debate or seeing no further questions, clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Alguin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lu,
Aye.
Commissioner Cervantes,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanko,
Aye.
Commissioner Reza,
Aye.
motion passed.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that presentation, Lieutenant Robledo. Moving on to item number 5 on this afternoon's agenda, the minutes of the Public Safety Commission special meeting of March 24th, 2026. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any debate on those minutes? No? Okay, David, please call the roll.
Chair Alguin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lu,
Aye.
Commissioner Cervantes,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanko,
Aye.
Commissioner Reza,
Aye.
motion passed.
Okay, moving right along then. Item number 6, consideration of a resolution to change future Public Safety Commission meeting dates and times. So my understanding of this proposed resolution is that it would call for this body to meet on the 4th Monday of January, March, May, July, September, and November at 5:30 PM in this room. This is due to some conflict with the room on the current date, which is Tuesdays at 5:30. But we've been doing it at 4:30 because we abut another commission that's right after us. So I know we spoke for a few meetings about this item and wanting to have it at a time that was convenient, not only for the public who may have work obligations and family obligations, but also for those of us on the commission that have those same obligations. So any discussion on that proposed resolution to meet at 5:30, January, March, May, July, September, and November of every year? Okay, do I have a motion to approve that resolution?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Olguin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Luo,
Aye.
Commissioner Cervantes,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanko,
Aye.
Commissioner Reza,
Aye.
motion passed.
Perfect, thank you. We will now meet 5:30 PM on the aforementioned months in this building. Thank you, David and Kevin, for drafting that resolution. Appreciate it. Moving on then to information reports. Item number 7 on the agenda, Fire Chief Greg Lloyd is back up. He gave us a little teaser of this earlier, but he will present, he's here to answer any questions regarding information reports on behalf of the fire department.
Just a quick thing, Chair Olguin. So right before that, there is an information report about citywide budget that was submitted by Assistant City Manager Nick Kimball. So it's attached to the agenda. But Mr. Kimball isn't here to talk on it, but if you have any questions, we can certainly pass over.
The person who's supposed to present from the city manager's office is not here to present that
So,
item?
It's not a presentation, it's an information report. So that's why it's just attached. The actual staff report and the presentation to the staff report is attached to the agenda. It's not a presentation per se, but if you want to discuss it and have some questions, we can definitely put it in the minutes and pass it on.
Okay, I would encourage that when there is an item that staff is soliciting feedback on, staff, it would be helpful if they were present. But any questions for the record for this staff person to answer at a future time on city budget, overview of city budget for commissions? Doc, you good?
Can I have just one moment?
Yeah, let's take a moment.
No, no questions from me.
Colleagues, any questions?
No, Mr. Chair, but just to echo your comments that staff should have been here to present.
Appreciate that, Commissioner. Yeah, I think there's been a few, not to pick on them, but I think there's been a few times where the city manager's office was supposed to present or appear at this commission, and they have not done so. Okay, no other questions then on that item. Now, Fire Chief Lloyd is present to answer any questions regarding informational reports on behalf of the fire department.
All right. So good evening, Commission, once again. Just wanted to go over some great things that are taking place. So last week was EMS week. And then in addition to that, the first week of June is also National Sidewalk CPR. Unfortunately, the first week of June is also the week that all of our high school and middle school students take their finals. So it's a little bit more stressful for them. But we had a great collaboration with the school district and provided an opportunity on the 18th and 19th of May. On the 18th, we went to South Pasadena High School, and on the 19th, we went to South Pasadena Middle School. And we're happy to say that we provided education to over 100 students on hands-only CPR. So we call it sidewalk CPR or hands-only CPR. There's no ventilations involved, there's no equipment involved, but it's basically taking the opportunity. They got to play with the mannequins and practice the hand positions, the rhythm, the depth of compression, and all of those things to some of your favorite music, right? As we show. So you can see as they go through this, so they're getting some education from firefighter paramedic Vasquez, and doing that education and teaching. We had a great time. We were out there just kind of showing them. The kids really got into it. So that was a great opportunity. We were donated over 100 CPR mannequins, but from a local company, which is great. So that has dramatically increased our opportunity to go out and provide larger scale education to the public. And we we'll be using those to leverage those with any other events that we have. Our next planned event would be to be working with the Lions during the 4th of July, as we have the pancake breakfast, that we could have a station and provide those opportunities for people to practice or to get instruction on that while they are attending those festivities. Any questions on that? I will say before we get into it, so this is part of a larger project for us. We're working with Dr. Stone, Dr. Senko, as part of this cardiac arrest improvement and looking at all of the things that we can do better to provide the greatest opportunities for survival for our community that's experiencing cardiac arrest. Part of that involves education, training, and equipment for our personnel, but also community education for the public as well. We're looking at this based on the positive feedback that we receive from the students and from the staff. We will be probably integrating something of this nature on an annual basis within both the middle school and the high school, as well as possibly expanding that into more of a community risk reduction. All of the high school students need community service hours, and so we're looking at putting together a curriculum that involves CPR, fire extinguishers, maybe some basic CERT, those types of things to really help increase the level of knowledge and education preparedness for our students as well. And I'll put my PD partners on the spot here because it was asked, is that part of that being self-defense, especially for the young students going off to college? And so I'm sure they will be more than happy to help participate in that aspect as well. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Yes, I have a question for you. Would you consider a place where it's, ripe for the pickings there for emergencies? Have you considered senior center? Because, if you want to talk about having emergencies, there is no better place than the senior center. So I think many of those folks, even though you might see them all like me, they still feel themselves full of energy, and they would like to contribute, and they would like to refresh on how to offer the CPR in case an emergency happens. I know the fire department is 3 minutes away, but those 3 minutes are crucial. So they should have, it would be nice if you offer, besides the high schools, if you offer, and the middle school, if you offer as well at the senior center, give these folks a chance to feel that they count for something. I think that would be a very positive thing in their lives. And the second one, when you are suggesting activities and how to fill those community service hours, I think one of the biggest challenges our seniors suffer or encounter is the fact that the technology is evolving constantly. Every time I turn my computer and I find that they're going to do an upgrade or whatever, it sends chills down my spine because I will never find what else I was looking for anymore. So if we could incorporate also of that, offer to the seniors uh, how to navigate how to use their cell phones to their advantage. Many of them just don't want to just call a number and that's it, because a lot of the challenges involved, as well as how to use a computer and with all the new upgrades and things that there are. By going by my children, they do those things with their eyes closed. And when I ask them for something, they just look at me and say, Dad, but do you see that? And I say, no, I don't. You know, they were born. I mean, by the time they went in the elementary school, they had computers in front of them. I did not. And most of our seniors did not. So it would be also a good thing to have that made available, some of this technology available. As you know, our seniors are so prone to get scammed on the phone, on the computer, and all that. And that would be a good way also to warn them on what the current scams are going and how to help them.
Certainly, and those are great ideas, and I would encourage, as far as with some of the things that you talked about activating the council or the commission in that. And these are one of these things that I think would be a great thing, especially with our liaison here, and looking at that and to really, really really activate those things that you're passionate about from a commission perspective, and really help. We can help facilitate and coordinate and put people in the right contact between the school district and all of those. But I think a lot of the action and the follow through really would be helpful for commissioners to activate in those areas that they feel very passionate about, which I think this is a great opportunity with one of those as well.
You got that? Yeah, I got a two-part question for you, Chief, but they're related. First of all, is that the middle school gym?
Yes.
That looks nothing like when Dr. Stone and I were there. That's crazy. My two-part question is, do y'all, or I guess maybe the doctors in the audience, the Heart Association, or is there any literature out there of people who may not have had the benefit of this class of how to, the quick and dirty of how to do CPR? And then my sub question to that is, I know we have 911 texting. Do we have the ability to send that literature to a caller, or tap into like FaceTime or something to walk them through that?
Doing it.
So on the training aspect, historically, we've said that the literature has been more supportive of paired education, as in like reading or seeing in a video, and training with a manipulative, in other words, actually getting your hands on and using a dummy or something. And the Heart Association and other organizations have gotten very creative as to what that something can be. It can be a folded over pillow, but there is a increasing amount of literature suggesting that we just need to do a better job of getting the basics out there. And now that the airway component has been taken out, and there is not just the same, but improved efficacy with hands-only CPR as opposed to paired hands and breathing, at least for middle-aged kids up through adults. The emphasis is just getting the word out and exposing the public to things like QR codes with brief videos, 1 to 2 minutes to learn hands-only CPR. In terms of actual events, the emphasis is still currently on caller, call taker, verbal interaction with a human, because humans have a tendency to better read the cues that are in the background as to and guide people towards doing effective hands-only CPR until help arrives. There is emerging literature on this being supported with videos that are sent. However, the back and forth that's required in order to send the public things from a phone number and consent them, in a sense, for receiving charges and having them be savvy enough to navigate to the video is fraught with delays And any pause in performing CPR for somebody who is not awake and not breathing normally ultimately leads to poor outcomes. And so it turns out still talking over the phone is much more efficacious than videos. That may change in the next few years as everything is changing. And we expect everything to change in the next few years. Priming our communities to call 911 for emergencies and being ready to follow instructions is really the key message. So if you see somebody not awake, not breathing normally, first of all, 911 is for emergencies. If you see someone who's not awake, not breathing normally, call 911 and follow the instructions. And having that simple message can save lives. And so we've been speaking quite a bit about this, and I think you're going to hear more about this over the coming months as our Heart Safe Communities initiative moves forward.
So to add on to what Dr. Sanko was saying, there are other apps that are out there, Pulse Point being one of them. And Pulse Point, you can select on the app to be notified if there is a CPR or a cardiac arrest happening in a public place nearby. And if you're available to respond, then you can. But within the app itself is what you're talking about, which is the CPR how-to and the AED how-to. So if you hit the CPR, it'll tell you, 1, call for help, 2, begin chest compressions, and then you can actually hit, and it'll say here, chest compression rate. So if you turn your volume up, it'll give you the correct rate. Shows you the depth of compression and the rate of compression for that as well. And then it'll take you to the CPR first aid app, as well as the AED. One of the things that we're doing within the program too, this is an app that we pay for the public, to give them access to not only our calls or those things, and we give them limited information to protect HIPAA and those things, but that gives an idea on what is, where we're running, how often we're running. But the other part that it does too is it will track where all of your AEDs are located by a map. So you can look at the map and see with the AED. So we're looking at updating that. So we have a good, accurate list of all of the AEDs that are available within our community. One of them being right there over there to your right, if you weren't aware of it, but also within the businesses as well, so that we can put those all out there that everybody can have access to it. So using technology in those aspects is another way to add on with that in addition to the 911.
What's that app, Chief?
Pulse Point. So yeah, if you log in and you go on to, you download it and then you look up, it'll ask you to add a department to follow. So South Pasadena Fire is on there and you can add that and then you'll see. So just for instance, like they're saying traffic collision. So that's where they're responding right now and you can see which units are going.
Any other questions on sidewalk CPR? I know you have another presentation, but any other questions on sidewalk CPR? Commissioner Kwok, you got some homework to do? Okay, Chief, moving on.
Moving on. All right. So here I am to present to you, Commission, our bi-monthly report that we have here. Although it is really pretty much an only monthly report, I can tell you that Verdugo went through a CAD change here about a month ago, and some of the things they're still trying to work out as to that data collection piece as they're going through. So our data is accurate up to that point, to the time of the CAD change. So what we're looking at, so turnout time, just as a reminder, right, is the time from the call received to when we go responding. So that's our crews getting to the ambulance or the engine and moving on. So within the 90th percentile, we're at 1 minute and 41 seconds. On those graphs on the left, they measure them in seconds only. So we've done a little bit of the time conversion for you to make it a little bit easier. Our EMS response time, 6 minutes and 43 seconds, and our fire response time, 7 minutes and 31 seconds for that as we continue to move. And those are some of the metrics that we want to keep track of because that helps us understand that if we start looking at changing our response profile or amount of apparatus or those types of things so that we're addressing the needs that we have. The biggest times that we look at in response times, what we're dealing with are two things, right? Is cardiac death, right? As well as, and then for fires is flashover. So time to flashover, time to cardiac death. Our monthly call statistics, 244 total calls for the month of March. We had 177 transports, 32 fire calls, 204 medical calls. We responded outside of the city 56 times, and then other units responded into the city 66 times. So some of the things that we get out of our patient care reports. Here's our top 5 provider impressions. So these are the things that our paramedics say that are things that are going on. So, and you'll see a correlation here in the next slide. So out of that, number 1, the most is trauma, was the highest provider impression with 30, followed by weakness and body pain, and then unconscious and seizure within those. And so as on that far right, our top call for service is a fall. And so that relates to trauma that you see. So we had 19 calls for service. That consistently is pretty much our top responding call that we go to, or as far as call for service on that. Some significant incidents that we had a rash of car fires. So those 2 top photos that are up there, one there at the Fair Oaks off-ramp to the 110, and then the other one down by High Life, down there off of Oak and Fair Oaks. So 2 different cars, but we had vehicle fires with them. Nothing nefarious, seemed to be some type of a mechanical failure within both of those. On the far left over there, that actually we'll go to the one on the right. So that's 669 Forest. We had a fire over there on the weekend on the 17th. We got pulled out of the Challenger Little League game, unfortunately, to go over to that. That ended up being an accidental fire, electrical related, starting in the subfloor of a single-family residential. The one on the left, very interesting. So that's over on the 200 block of Fremont. That was at about 10:45 at night. That is a still picture from a Ring camera that caught the entire start of the fire that ended up being a lithium-ion battery fire from an e-bike. So when we put our press release out for that, we added some educational information about charging. Please do not leave your lithium-ion bikes unattended when they charge. Don't charge them for an extended period of time. And if you can avoid charging them indoors, please do so. So that fire took place there about 10:45 at night. And if you ever get a chance to watch the video, that fire literally exploded and sent pieces everywhere. So been pretty busy couple of months for us, but been good for our folks. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for the chief? Dr. Senko?
Kudos on bringing these statistics to us. This is really helpful, and having been to public safety committee meetings in a number of other cities around LA, most do not present this level of counts, this level of granularity of data. That said, there is an emerging trend towards moving beyond counts to a space where you're incorporating essentially an advocate. It looks like 85% of the cases that our fire department responds to are medical related cases. And what moving beyond counts looks like means having an engaged medical director for the fire department who is reading through our electronic patient care reports on a regular basis, assessing quality of care, ensuring that there's good continuity of transfer of care between our services and our neighboring hospitals, advocating for our members if and when they're ever injured. They're tied into our local EMS agency activities on a regular basis, advocating for our needs within our community. And I just want to plant the seed both on this committee as well as for the city council that I think that has yet to be realized within our community. And that is an opportunity moving forward. And so that's something that should strongly be considered, identifying a engaged member of our community who's trained in EMS, who has the skills and connections to deliver for South Pasadena and the patients that end up riding our ambulances.
Great. And yes, and to your point, we're using a lot of this to drive some of our education. So falls being one of the large parts. So reaching out to our seniors, reaching out to the senior centers, fall prevention programs, those types of things to help see what we can do about really taking that whole community and that all hazards approach to community risk reduction.
Thank you.
Chief, is there a publicly facing dashboard or other means to view this data?
So not within our website as of yet. Pulse Point will cover all of our responses for a period of 24 hours. So you'll get to see our call volume with the last 24 hours. We are talking with IT about creating what we call a widget that we could then broadcast, whether it's call counts or times or those, to provide that real-time data. That's one of our goals that we would like to see, and working with IT to hopefully get to that point.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful to view trends, not just in a short 24-hour window, but over the course of time. I think that would be something worth exploring. My other question is not so much on the report you just gave, but again, we only meet every other month now. So the summer is upon us. Any thoughts on prevention? Or I know you just said we had a couple of busy months, but anything that the community should be aware of as summer heats up, literally?
Right. Well, absolutely. From a fire prevention, we are engaged in our weed abatement program, right, with the County of Los Angeles. In doing that, we're also beginning our portion for city-owned properties and engaging on that. We did come before council last month or last week to secure an agreement with Capra Environmental Services. Capra Environmental Services operates goats and sheep, and they do a targeted grazing abatement program. That was something that was done within the city of Pasadena, and talking with their staff, and that was widely positive and received. With that, we looked at that, also looked at some concerns from the community about that. It's not a fix-all approach. It's a hybrid program, so we're not eliminating mechanical weed abatement or trimming, but in the areas where we can utilize something that's a little more eco-friendly, and utilizing the goats where we're, still remaining aware of, soil and vegetation and all of that. We're going to do that as well. So we're working with Public Works on that to identify targeted areas. We're going to walk them. We're going to be communicating with the public, communicating our plan, and recognizing that if there are areas that are sensitive or that it would be better served by mechanical weed abatement, then we'll go ahead and do that. So we're looking at all of those options and opportunities that are out there in order to basically make it safer. Our main concern is life, property, and the environment. And so we're engaging with that in whatever way that we can to make that safer. I know also that Public Works is engaged in tree trimming around in the Monterey Hills to be able to provide, some fuel, access mostly for fire apparatus. We have been driving around there, both Public Works and myself, in really helping to maintain that 20-foot width that's delineated in the fire code, as well as a 13-foot 6-inch height for that, and that's mostly for the fire apparatus access.
Thanks, Chief. I think one other prevention strategy that I would encourage, and working with your partners in PD, in my particular neighborhood of South Pass, we have almost daily vehicles blocking fire hydrants, and that's something that makes me really nervous as we move towards summer. I know I had the great opportunity to ride with your wonderful department, and I saw the challenges of locating hydrants and accessing the Monterey Hills area in general. So if we're adding the delay of, oh my gosh, whose car is this? Can we get somebody to move it? Do we break the windows? That's something that's really, really concerning to me. And I know that's already on the books, that's not supposed to be happening. But just the boots on the ground, the real world implications, it is something that's happening. So I would implore y'all to work together on that.
And we have a great relationship with the police department, and when our personnel encounter it, We make a call to dispatch, and they dispatch parking enforcement out immediately and in working on those when we find them. It is a concern. It's a concern of mine as well. And we're looking at, in cooperation with Police Department and Public Works, at really addressing that. It's something of a significant concern. Also recognizing that, parking is a difficult challenge up there. What we want to say is that, life safety is our priority, but we're not completely, we're willing to have a dialogue and a discussion and work with the public on that to find a solution that's going to keep people safe, that's not only going to provide response routes, but evacuation routes as well. Because when something happens, we want everybody to have that opportunity to safely escape if there is a wildfire in that area. And so that is something that we're working on. Our goal is to take a measured approach in one area at a time and follow and start it with a lot of public education and working with the community to do that. But it's certainly, the roads are narrow up there, they're steep, and, there's definitely, the state has designated a lot of that area as a high or a very high fire hazard severity zone. So, we want to take that all into account. But thank you for that feedback. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, just one other thing too, and Chief, for you as well. Not only the hydrants, and I understand I don't know what the community policing version of a fire department is, community fire departmenting, but the red curbs as well, or the red marked areas, I know make it challenging for not only our engine 81, but also partner engines. There's been many times where they can't navigate the area due to vehicles parked in red zones. But I understand and appreciate the sensitivity to balancing a livable environment with following the letter of the law. So thank you for that. Any other questions for the fire chief? No? Okay. We'll try to speed through this. We're getting another commission coming in here. Moving on to item 10, Vice Mayor Ferguson, do you have any report or communication for us?
I don't have anything at this time.
Yeah, appreciate you being here. Maybe just one thing, if we could share something with you, and I know this has come up a couple times today, and I don't want to bash on them, but we still have not heard from the city manager's office as to the change in commission structure and meeting frequency. There was also, I believe, an item today where we were to provide any comments or feedback or questions that we had for them on the budget process, but they were not here to listen to those questions or comments or feedback. So just my request, and I don't know if anyone would echo this, but do really want to get them in front of us to hear what they have to say.
Did you folks receive a copy of the proposed capital improvement projects annual budget? Was that distributed to the commission? I picked up my copy today, so I have it fresh with me, but okay.
No.
Okay. Okay. I guess what I'll do is actually reach out to Nick, the assistant city manager, because he's leading a lot of the budget discussions, and at least try to make sure that a copy of the budget gets and this proposal gets in front of you folks. At least an email of what documentation we have thus far.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know there was a presentation, a slide deck. I think people say now, they don't say PowerPoints anymore. A slide deck included in the materials for today on the budget process, kind of writ large, but nothing drilling down.
Oh, okay.
Other than the two departments, they presented their budget. But
okay. I'm gonna send a text, but he might be gone for the day.
Dr. Senko?
Yeah, could I just make one other comment too? And Ms. Mayor Ferguson, good to see you, and thanks for your support out at Taste of South Pasadena. Good to see you and your family out there. And we were hearing from both our police department and fire department on both the funds that they receive from the municipality as well as their endeavors to get funding elsewhere. And talking about how we want to continue to be supportive of that. And I know Chief Lloyd brought up a potential AFG grant, Assistance for Firefighters grant. And I think that's a great example of how our departments are seeking additional funding in order to make South Pasadena a safer place. And I would strongly encourage that when that comes before the city council, that you guys listen and pay attention and are supportive.
Thank you for the input. Can you, I wrote a note down earlier. You had a comment regarding, and this is just for my own clarification, kind of like this idea of like some form of medical review. Can you kind of clarify that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so all 911 provider agencies, which in Los Angeles County are fire departments that respond to medical calls, 911 calls for medical help, are required to have a medical director that reviews their cases, that represents their interests at the local EMS agency, which reports to the Department of Health Services and who sets the standard for medical care around our community. And I was emphasizing the importance of having a hands-on, involved, properly trained EMS medical director for our community and how that could add value to what is already a very strong fire department. This is the direction that many of our municipalities around LA have already gone. They have medical directors who are emergency doctors who have EMS subspecialty training. There was a time, for example, where somebody had a heart attack and you would go to the cath lab and somebody who had not been trained in that might be doing your procedure. That's no longer happening in LA and in most of California. And similarly, you wouldn't want just any doctor to be involved in your local fire department and overseeing and providing advocacy and oversight for all the medical care that they're performing in the community. You want somebody who's properly trained. And so strongly encourage the rest of my colleagues on this committee, as well as our city council, to explore how that could be realized in the coming months, years for South Pasadena.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I can think of someone that fits that bill, but one other thing, and again, not to pick on the city manager's office, but part of the confusion around the change in commission structure and meeting frequency, I believe we're one over the allotment for commissioners, and two of us, Commissioner Lou and I, have our term up at the end of the year. So just, I don't know if he is, but I'm curious of how that's going to move forward if we're already one over the allotment.
That's a question that I would need to take up with the mayor, as the mayor does the appointments to the commission. But structurally, I imagine that the city clerk kind of manages a lot of the kind of like the structural side of it, like when terms begin and who's who can serve, can't. So the administrative side of it handled by the city clerk, but the appointments get handled by the mayor. So I will ping the mayor and kind of see what the commission transition plan looks like.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions for? I always get confused. It's not vice mayor; it's mayor pro tem, right? We have that title in South Pass.
Either's fine with
the number two. The number two in command.
Pro tem is, I think, what they put on the badge, but you know,
pro tempore.
I think that's the Latin is part of it. You know, I feel like when it comes to a lot of this stuff, I'm not wearing like a white wig and the robe, so. You know, the parliamentary side of it is somewhat irrelevant to me, but, you know, I probably shouldn't say that on the mic.
All right. Nothing else. Appreciate your time, sir. Thank you. Right. Whatever your title is. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the time.
Item 11, staff liaison communications, chiefs. We've heard from both of you, but anything, final closing remarks for either of you? Chief Elmore?
No, not at this time. We're just, again, happy to be here, happy to be getting engaged with the committee going forward, and we'll look forward to presenting more details about vision and plans going forward in the future for you guys.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, a quick question. How many policemen are we short staffed at your department right now?
So like I said, we're at 30, we're at 33 right now. We're looking, 2 people in the process, and then we have 2 openings, which, as you saw on the way in, we had an interview of about 16 candidates today. So,
33,
yes, sir.
and we're short 2?
Well, we're allotted for 37. So we have 2 that are in the process, and then, like I said, we're looking for those 2 more openings. So that would be 4 total to bring us up to 37.
Those were the well-dressed people outside. Okay. Dr. Zanko, you have a question? No? Any questions for the chief? No, appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, last item is item number 12, Commissioner Communications. Anything from my colleagues to share?
I'm going to throw a quick wrench in your plans to go home early. While I was on the dais, I reached out to our Assistant City Manager, Nick Kimball, and so to kind of have him talk about the budget. So if you don't mind, could you mind revisiting that item number 7 a little bit? And feel free to put him on the hot seat. Nick loves the pressure.
Yeah, looking forward to it, although I feel like we're at the Grammys and there's a light flashing where we got to get off the stage. Are we good to?
We'll be fine.
Okay.
All right.
Nick, I'm sorry, what was your last name?
It is Nick Kimball. I'm the assistant
Kimball.
city manager. Can you give me 1 minute? Because I can actually I have like a couple slides. It'll take me 30 seconds to just go grab them. I'll be real quick, I promise.
Sounds good.
It'll make it an easier conversation.
Thank you.
Sure. One of the things that's nice about a city as small as ours is that people can wear multiple hats and do things on the fly. So I appreciate Nick coming down here, and it sounds like we'll get the presentation up for you folks.
Chief Lloyd, I just have a quick question. Okay, just a little bit about, looking at the presentation, and as our city is preparing to, onboard a couple of mixed-use projects, multi-use, some pretty big stuff coming our way. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspections process, the annual inspections that the fire department is doing?
So there are 3, I would say, main annual inspections that we do. So we do business inspections annually. It's a life safety inspection that we do every year for all of our businesses with that. And that's already rolled into their business license fee that they pay every year. So they pay the fee, and that includes, in addition to that, they get an annual fire and life safety inspection of that. In addition to that, we have SB 1205, which are our state mandated inspections for multifamily residential. So that's in triplexes and above, that they get an annual inspection. Most of the time, that is just for common areas, fire extinguishers, access issues, storage under stairwells. We don't make any entries to any occupied dwellings. If there is a vacant apartment, we'll ask to look at it. In order to address some of the life safety issues in that, we have all of our managers will sign a smoke detector affidavit, which basically says that they're inspecting their smoke detectors when they go in and access the apartments during routine maintenance, making sure that they're functional and that the batteries are working. And then the last one would be is our state mandated inspections for our very high fire hazard severity zone. And so those would be the 3 annual inspections that we do.
Got it. Are the inspections performed by fire prevention or the engine companies?
So it's both.
Both. Okay.
So yeah, we have a combination of both fire and both our prevention office as well as our firefighters.
Excellent.
Our fire crews.
Thank you. If I may request, maybe at the end of the year, just roughly some statistics of how many inspections were performed, completed, or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Until the end of the year.
Yes.
So we can document what a good job you guys are doing.
You got it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna backtrack for a moment. Item 7, an informational report, an overview of the city budget. We have Assistant City Manager
Nick Kimball.
Kimball, thank you.
Yes. All right, so I've done this a few times. We put out our proposed budget, been doing some community information hearings, meetings, sorry, to kind of introduce the proposed budget to everyone. So, I'll go through this relatively quickly. I have like a 3.5 hour version of this. I heard that you wanted to get out of here quickly, so I'll try to keep it to 10 minutes or less. So just in general, the city budget, and you guys know well, police and fire are sort of the largest piece of our budget. We also pay for public works, parks and recreation, planning, and library services are our primary sort of customer-facing services. Then we have our internal services, city manager's office, finance, and city clerk that kind of provide support to the other departments. So real quickly, how is the city funded? I think this is an important slide just for the community to understand. Every city has sort of a different makeup of what taxes are collected and what really kind of drives their local economy and their tax base. In South Pasadena, about 40% of our total general fund revenue is property tax. And I'll say that's somewhat unique. Property tax is always, a tax revenue source. It's not typically 40% of a city's budget. A very distant second is sales tax. And that's, just reflective of a smaller commercial quarter here. We don't have, a Costco. We don't have any large, vehicle dealerships or anything. So, and then intergovernmental, that's mostly vehicle license fees. So that's, again, a property tax on your vehicles. So that really makes up, between property tax and sales tax, that really makes up half of our revenues. The advantage of property tax is that it's based on assessed value, not market value. So it's very stable. It's not, subject to ups and downs of market conditions as much as sales tax. Sales tax is obviously very, very sensitive to economic conditions. That being said, as the price of goods, labor, inflation goes up, typically that outpaces what the cap is on property tax. Well, in California, there's a cap of, I think it's 2% increase every year because of Prop 13. So that doesn't keep pace with sort of the cost of goods. So that's one of the things as a city heavily reliant on property tax. Again, in the down years, it insulates us from having these wild swings, which is nice. But also, as prices go up, we don't have windfalls that you might if you're a heavy sales tax city. How are revenues invested? That's another way to say how do we spend our money. Again, between police and fire, you're really looking at about 50% of the budget, which is very typical for a city of our size. That is a full service city, and just reflects the values of the community, and that we really do want to make sure that we have a safe community. And then beyond that, finance provides a lot of the internal services. So IT, finance, and then parks and public works. Public works is a little bit of a misnomer because what's shown here is really what's paid for through their just general fund operations. So that's primarily like engineering and some oversight. A bigger part of the public works budget is for our water utility, our sewer utility. That's not necessarily reflected here in this percentages because it's general fund, but so it looks like we don't spend much on public works, but they also have a pretty significant budget once you factor in those utilities in the CIP. So this is a lot of numbers and it's a little busy slide. But the takeaway here is that the operating budget this year was balanced. We have about $45.7 million of the general fund operating budget. This year, and you may have noticed the title of this presentation was Path to Sustainability. One of the things that as we sort of had to, rebuilt our finance department last year and we were a couple years late on our audited financials, so we were able to catch up and do 2 sets of audited financials in basically a 3-month period back in the fall, which is a pretty big lift. But Once we got all caught up, we just realized that there were a few operating costs that we weren't adequately accounting for in the departments. The biggest ones are our insurance. If you run a business, you know you have to have workers' comp and liability insurance, vehicle replacement. So anytime you have a vehicle, you have to start setting aside funds because 8 years from now, 5 to 8 years from now, when that useful life is up, you're gonna have to replace it. And then the other one is facility maintenance. So on the private sector side, typically that would be your rent, your utilities, internet access, that type of thing. So we weren't really setting aside regular funds for that. This year, we built those charges into each department through what's called internal service charges. So basically, we're just reflecting the true cost of operations. So not just the labor and materials to do, the police and fire jobs, but also like what it costs to replace their vehicles and set aside funding for that. What it costs if they were to be paying rent to the city to rent their space and to keep that to maintain that space, and what it costs to insure those workers' comp and insurance. So we had to build those into the budget that weren't previously there. So we had to do a lot of belt tightening as a city. We found a lot of opportunity to sort of we call them efficiencies, but we did notice there are a lot of siloed departments. So there'd be multiple departments using GIS. I'm going to use that as an example. Using GIS, police department, fire department use GIS services to track calls. Public Works uses them for where our water, all of our water assets are. So each department had its own contract with a GIS firm. So we noticed that's not really taking advantage of economies to scale. So the past year, we've been sort of where there are opportunities is putting those all under one contract, getting economies to scale, saving money, and that's how we ended up funding all of these operating charges. So in addition to that, we also are going to be transferring some general fund reserve. We have a pretty healthy reserve up in the 40% or so, and that's basically your reserve is measured as a percentage of your expenditures. So again, from a personal finance standpoint, it's sort of everyone says you should keep 3 months of your salary in savings just in case something happens, you get laid off or whatever. It gives you a little bit of cushion. So that's about 25% of what you spend every year you should have in savings so that you can kind of absorb those shocks to the system. Same from a city budgeting standpoint. So we were up at about 40%. We realized there were a lot of areas. Our insurance premiums went from $2 million last year to $3.5 million in this upcoming year. We had quite a few. We didn't have anything set aside to replace our vehicles. So we're taking some of that general fund reserve that was above what our minimum was, and we're putting them into, and we're transferring them to self-insurance fund and vehicles and facility maintenance. So we can make sure we can sustain the condition of our critical fleet and our critical buildings over the next few years. So that's one of the big things we're doing, but we're transferring those, but still maintaining a reserve of 31%. So the reserve for the general fund is coming down a bit. It's coming from 40% down, but it'll be at 31%. We're still meeting that policy minimum. And then going forward, we have a consistent funding for all of those areas. Again, this is real quick. I don't want to bore you with some of the inner workings, but the 3 significant pressures in this year's budget we had to deal with were recently ratified labor agreements that were critical to really stabilizing the organization. We had a lot of turnover, but we just needed to make sure we're funding those labor increases in a sustainable manner. The internal service charges, which I've just been talking about, which is the liability, workers' comp, facilities, and fleets. And then the last thing is really streets and sidewalk conditions, and we all know that our deteriorating pavements and sidewalks really have been neglected for many, many years, and we need to start putting money toward figuring out how to get those street conditions up to an acceptable where they're acceptable. On the right, really the operating efficiencies, that was just some of those cost reductions we talked about. We really tightened our belt this year, looked at making where we could recover costs from people that were getting a specific benefit, and so not a general benefit, so we shouldn't be using general tax dollars. That's where permit fees and those type of things come in. We made sure that people are paying their fair share. And again, we just had another 7% operating reduction. So we were able to achieve this. We really tightened our belt, but we aren't cutting any service. We're keeping the service level where it is. I would say if we have to cut any further, we would have to start looking at cutting services, but we're really bare bones. That being said, the departments did a great job stepping up and finding areas that we could reduce our budget. We really just focused on, again, resolving some of those, establishing those fund reserves. I don't know if you've heard, but one of our big things that we're working on this year is establishing a customer success center. So I don't know if you all have heard of like the 311 center in like city of LA. So we're going to have the same thing here. And the idea is that we'll have, it won't necessarily be 311. It will be a centralized, it'll be a centralized number, but you just have to call one number and the city and we'll route you instead of calling 4 different departments and getting bounced around. So that's a big effort this year. We're preparing we know that development is coming, whether mostly through changes in state law. So we need to start preparing for what that looks like from a service level. And then again, addressing critical needs for our streets and sidewalks. So through this budget, we've funded the first two, both the customer success center and those operating costs I had talked about. We're in the process of looking at development impact fees that developers would pay so that they're putting into, they're putting in their fair share of what their impact is on city services. And then our infrastructure needs we know are just underfunded. So I'm not really going to go through these. A lot of these kind of focus, not necessarily on the budget, but on what we're going to be looking at in the next couple months as far as how we fund our infrastructure. Again, there's a lot of infrastructure that's severely underfunded. We have money for maintenance. Maintenance is day-to-day, filling potholes, ramping sidewalks, minor concrete work, putting slurry seal. Slurry seal is just like, kind of a little thin layer of tar and oil. But that's about all we have money to do through the budget annually. Improvements are actually like extending the useful life of something. So that's where you get into pretty expensive projects and that we don't have funding for. Where again, our roads right now are in sort of poor to fair condition. This is probably a little bit more impactful. You can see where we are from our pavement condition as we compare to everyone else in the or a number of other cities in the San Gabriel Valley. So at 54, we're pretty much lower than almost all of our neighbors. And obviously it's not just the streets, but it's the sewers and water underneath. We usually use most of what we use to pay for this are gas taxes. When you go to the pump, you pay 10 cents a gallon for gas. We get a piece of that based on our population. Same thing, LA County, when you pay sales tax here, part of that 9.5% to 10.5% comes back locally to South Pasadena. Again, that's population based. So with a relatively small population, we get a pretty small amount. There's some former 710 freeway funds that we got specifically for Fair Oaks and Huntington Fremont projects. So those are being worked on now. But again, those can't be used on the other, 50 plus miles of streets we have in town. The capital improvement, the message here is that although we do have about $50 million in CIP funding, 70, probably 40 million of that is related to that 710 former funding and just those 2 projects. So a lot of this is not, it's very underfunded for what we actually need. I think this is just an interesting one. We have about 100,000 vehicles come through town every day. From a cost perspective, if we're maintaining our streets regularly, it's only about 50,000 per mile for a slurry seal. Once the streets fail or get in a poor condition, it goes up to $2.5 million per mile for reconstruction. That's when you either have to grind off the top 2 inches or take off 4 inches, start taking out base, laying new base, right? So that's a complete failure, and we have many streets that are in that condition. We've received more than 200 claims over the last 10 years. That's cost more than $7 million just in claim costs related to streets and sidewalks. And we're filling well over 1,000 potholes a year. So that's just costing tens of thousands in labor hours. I don't want to spend too much time here. I said that in the last set of slides. I'm going to keep saying it, but I'll go through quick. We are looking at a potential revenue bond. That's going to be, you hear more about that potentially in the upcoming month or two with City Council. We have a plan, a 10-year resurfacing plan. I can provide this to you later if you're interested, but as you can see, this is about how far $80 million would go over 10 years. So we get a decent number of streets in the city, but not all of them. And everyone always asks, how do we figure out which streets? And it's an engineering science between we have to balance streets that aren't yet failed and making sure that we're spending fewer dollars because those go further. So saving some streets that are about to fail, while also we know we need to still address some streets that fail. So this is kind of a potential plan. Obviously, if everything moved forward over the next few months, this would be subject to change. It really just we'd be trying, what we'd be trying to do is getting our street grade from the mid 50s up to about a 70. So we're at least on par with our San Gabriel Valley neighbors. And the cost for $80 million would be about $33 per 100,000 of assessed value. So with that, just on here, for anyone that's interested, on the left side, that QR code will take you to our proposed budget. That's on our website. On the right, we do have a road and infrastructure information website that you could also, that's where the QR code on the right goes. So sorry, it took a little bit longer. This was the short version, believe it or not. Typically, we go into more detail, but I'd love to answer any questions if you have any.
Yeah, appreciate that presentation and for you being here. Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner Kwok?
So on one of your previous slides, if you could go back,
Mhm.
One couple more, it's further back.
Which what's the content on there?
It was the one of your slides said that for every dollar that the city invests in like roads, it saves $5 to $6 in the future.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like you also said that 31% of the city's budget becomes reserved, so it isn't spent.
Mhm.
So wouldn't it make more sense now to just spend like a portion of that so we can save these costs and like road maintenance and also like lots of infrastructure, I think when you like delay repairing it, it just becomes more expensive in the future.
Yeah. So there's certainly a point of when you have surplus reserves that you certainly should spend that. That's always an option to spend that, and it's a good expenditure on capital improvements, right? Because it's one-time expenditure. I think the danger of where we are being so close to sort of our minimum is once we spend that money, you can't get it back, right? So we have a minimum requirement of 25% of our expenditures. We're only about $2.9 million above that, right? So, that only paves 2.9. So if we spend everything above the 25%, it'll only pave 1 mile of road that's in poor condition. So, I mean, that's certainly one of the options, but it gets so little bang for your buck, so to speak. We're trying to propose something to the city council and the community that we can do a pretty large street improvement program over the next 10 years, as opposed to a one-time investment of $2.5 million, which will make, a couple streets happy, but like the rest of the city would probably be would feel left out. So we're trying to put that forward. If for some reason we don't move forward with sort of a bond initiative, we'll have to look at other options, like again, slowly kind of spending down reserve to make those investments.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? No? Yeah, I got a comment and then a couple questions. First, I want to give praise to your office for settling those labor contracts. I think it's really important. I know us on the dais, we're all residents, so obviously we want to look out for other residents, but the workforce of the city does a great job. So I hope that they got very good MOUs. So thank you for taking care of that. On this slide, that we were talking about, second bullet, and the PD has a term for this, and I forgot what they say. It's like South Pass is a transiting city, like a city that sees a lot of transit. I know some of the measures that we talked about were resident focused, like the bond. Is there anything that your office is exploring in terms of, or if it exists, a way to get money from those who benefit from our streets but aren't paying into them?
Yeah, so that actually in one of our community meetings that came up, someone asked why we don't put sort of tolls at all the entrances of the city, which I do think is a nominal idea. We haven't really looked into it. Um, and I'm not sure if there are, we'd have to look into whether or not there are sort of rules around that. Like you can have on state highways, you can certainly have tolls, but those tend to be managed by Caltrans. And I know this isn't the Public Works, PWIC, but once money goes to Caltrans, it rarely comes back out. So we'd have to look at how we would, work at that. But I think that's I think those are novel ways we would certainly look at it. I haven't heard of any other cities having sort of that toll road within a city structure. And ultimately, we'd have to look at a way at exempting out residents anyway, because they'd be paying them, obviously they use our roads the most, just coming in and out. But no, I think those are things we'll be looking at because that idea came up in one of our community meetings as well.
Yeah, we have this city has a storied past with Caltrans, as I'm sure you're aware of. And then just one other question on one of the early slides that show, it was the one that you said was a busy slide that had all the numbers, and it showed that my math back of the napkin here looks that we're going to run on a $3.2 million deficit. Is that
That is correct.
correct?
Those are transfers. So I guess the difference is we're not going to necessarily spend that money. We're transferring it from the general fund and putting it into, I'll give you an example, our self-insurance fund. We have a deductible of $100,000. So we pay the first $100,000 of every claim. Right now, we don't have a reserve in the self-insurance fund. So every time we have to pay $100,000, it just comes from the general fund anyway. So we're saying we're going to show this where it should be. So we're going to be transferring about of that $3.2 million, about $2 million of that is actually going into the self-insurance fund. So there's actually now, if there's a claim, now we're trying to do our best to manage claims a lot better so that our claims aren't as expensive. But when we do get a claim, now that money will draw from the self-insurance fund reserve, which we're transferring from the general fund, rather than just pulling it right out of the general fund. So it's still kind of coming from the same place. It's just that we're trying to reflect it where it's being spent as opposed to hiding it in the general fund reserve.
Yeah, and you kind of answered the question I was going to ask, but I'll ask it anyway. That number is a little bit frightening, 3.2 million. I know if just my personal budget, if I'm running 3.2 million over, I'm going to have to take a hard look and maybe cut back on my Dodger tickets or something. But what steps are we taking other than potentially looking at the bond measure, which would be at the will of the voters, right? To prevent such a number from reoccurring, particularly when we're drawing down on our reserves?
Yeah, so I would agree with you. It would make me really nervous if this $3.2 million was for salaries or something else, because then we would be getting closer to zero very quickly. But this is, like I said, this is really just one time. So one of the big things that we're doing are taking, we're actually looking at changing our third-party administrator, and there are claims administrator that really help us with our risk management. So we're taking a much harder look at risk management so that when we make this transfer, we can maintain that reserve. We don't just spend that down as well. Same thing with fleet and vehicles. We're already spending the money. We're just not reflecting it in the right place. So now it's this one-time reserve, puts it in those places that we can track it easier. But to your point, if this were ongoing, if this 3.2 million was for something that, again, salaries or some other payments that we'd have to pay every year, then we would be in trouble.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, not on this, and I know we're over time, but Nick, just one other thing, sorry. And I know you had just been onboarded not too long before, but on the January agenda, we had your office coming to talk about changes to the commission structure. We never received that presentation for whatever reason. I know there was some discontent about that. So potentially on a future agenda, if your office could come speak about that, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, I'll make sure either through the city attorney's office or through Todd, we'll get someone to talk about the commission reorg.
Thank you. I know we're over, but any other closing remarks from the commission? For commissioner, we're moving back to the final item on the agenda, item 12, commissioner communications.
Yes, I have a question for Chief Elmore. Last March, I think in February or 1st of March, there was, and I received a lot of calls and inquiries about this, and I have no way to answer, and the question is not who or what, but the question is how could we prevent it? Last at beginning of March or late February, there was a fatal accident on Hope and Fair Oaks, and a senior citizen was killed. And it spread like wildfire over the senior center and everywhere else. And they wanted to know, they keep saying, well, the light changes there so fast that we really don't have time to get across. My question is, at this point, what could we do to keep something like that from ever happening again? I know I tried to get it in the agenda 2 months ago, but it was too late. Your office did not have all the complete information regards this, but now we are 3 months after, and I think our seniors deserve an answer. And as I say, no names, no whatever, but the question is how we prevent from something like this to happen again, because Fair Oaks is extremely busy street. The cars just go zooming. Many of them do not bother with the red light sometimes, or they just make the turns even though there is someone halfway crossing the street, but they still go through. And so I was wondering, I know this is a last minute thing. You don't have, I don't know, you have anything to say about it. You want to put it off for the next meeting that we have, but we really think we should cover this item. This is a public safety item.
Yeah, we can put that on the agenda for the next time around, and then I'll have a more complete answer for you then. But there are some things that we can do and look at to see what we can do to mitigate that.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. I have a second question is, I live on close to Garfield, that goes into Grevelia. And when Grevelia goes all the way to Fair Oaks again, there is a three-way split, under which you have a sign that says only to go on this lane if you're going only to your right, and the other two, one is for the freeway and one is if you're still going to make a right. Very frequently happens that someone who is totally on the left side, that they did not think about what they were going to do, all of a sudden they try to cross 2 lanes to get on the freeway instead of going down Grevelia. And this happens over and over again, and it's extremely dangerous. I was wondering if we could bring it to public safety, public works, and see what other things can be brought up to that because what we have is not working. It's a very hazardous turn, and we really need to take care of it.
Yeah, that's something that we can definitely bring up with Public Works, but we can also look at our traffic units and make sure that they are doing some enforcement out there and some education of the public of how that turn lane works.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments?
Yeah, I have a technical background. I see AI become a very, very powerful tool for everyone. Probably in the next year plan, I would suggest our fire and police department put AI training to our staff. Yeah, that will be a very powerful tool to improve the efficiency.
Yeah, that's something that we're always constantly looking at what the new tools are that we can use to get better at that stuff. Some of the AI virtual, some of the other trainings that are available out there are stuff that we're going to continue to look at and make the thing. I'm sure fire does the same thing as well.
Just make sure you're abiding by the MOUs and working with your union partners when you're doing that, please. Okay, anything else? No? All right, thank you all for your patience. We had a busy one today, but with no further items or comments from staff, I will now adjourn this evening's meeting at 6:46 p.m. Our next regular meeting will take place Monday, July 20th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. Thank you. Have a good night.